But Drake C told TJ Pittenger with you to talk a Monday night football matchup before the NFL kicks on the week after with a former NFL coach, Bill Belichick. Just all the parallels here. TCU, UNC. This is our preview of next year's Dublin game, so excited for that. But game one for Belichick. All the focus on UNC. But TCU is playing in this game too. Let's talk about it, Drake.
Yeah, this is a week one loss for UNC. And it's not because Bill Belichick's a bad coach. It's not because you can put a picture of him and his girlfriend on the screen and show you the offseason distraction that it's been to have Belichick in the locker room and in the facility. It would be very hard. So it's the dichotomy of it. I don't hate UNC by any means. I don't hate Bill Belichick. I personally am someone who I like dynasties. I like greatness. I like Michael Jordan and Tom Brady. Call me crazy, but I think that dynasties are awesome. Seeing someone play at the highest level, coach at the highest level. Bill Belichick has done that. I'm not someone who is an adversary of him, but man, if I'm 23 and my coach's girlfriend is like my age, the distractions have loomed large over the course of this offseason. North Carolina had a stipulation where Belichick could, in essence, leave, or they could have fired him by June 1st. The reason that stipulation was in there because they knew this would be a distraction and could backfire. This is less about that, though that is a big piece, the distraction piece for Belichick and company and how his team's able to reset and focus on football. That is a piece in this. But the bigger piece is that North Carolina just doesn't have a good roster. I can't take a coach in Bill Belichick who struggled his last few years in the NFL without Tom Brady and without as good of a roster as he had through the early 2000s into like 2020. And then once his roster was depleted, it went from, oh, wow, he's an elite coach with, scrappy talent to, man, when he only has scrappy talent, he struggles to win. He becomes mortal. 13th best quarterback room in the ACC. That is according to Pick Six previews, and they're facing Josh Hoover. The 10th best running back room in the conference. The 12th, that's 17 teams. The 12th best wide receiver tight end room. And the only area per Pick Six previews after the transfer portal and after additions out of the high school ranks where they are the top half of the ACC is their linebacking core, and that's 7th out of those 17 teams. North Carolina just doesn't have the horses in the stable. I think Bryce Yates or Thaddeus Dixon could be formidable on their defense, but I don't see them being elite necessarily. I don't see a single offensive player that I would put in my preseason all-ACC team. This is a school that will benefit by the weakness of the Atlantic Coast Conference and still probably win 7 or so games under Bill Belichick. TCU is not one of them. I love the standalone Monday night where the Big 12 can showcase itself against an ACC school that will likely flounder.
TCU going on the road as a favorite. I do think that's interesting, though. ESPN has this as like 59-41, so not necessarily predicting a blowout by any means. Is there concern about TCU going on the road with this matchup?
No. I wish that I had a real good, wow, what a great analyst answer. But when's the last time you heard anybody go, oh, shoot, we got to go to Chapel Hill this week? Yeah, in basketball, no doubt. You're right. That's going to be really tough to play in the Dean Dome. In football, and look, there are schools that will win this season have the same problem. Miami, they're not known for a great atmosphere, and they're probably not going to have one. I think that a school like Baylor or a school like TCU could be the top of the Big 12 without a great home field environment. So it's not that UNC should be docked by that by any means, but if TCU was going on the road in week one to play in Death Valley, either of the Death Valleys, or to play in the Shoe, or to play in the Big House, or even to play in a couple of those SEC venues like Knoxville that may not get the pomp and circumstance of being top 5 in the country, that's where this would be an issue. I don't fear TCU. I don't fear for TCU being on the road here.
TCU, one of the hotter programs to finish the year last year. I think won 6 of their last 7 after dropping 3 of 4. But because there was so much chaos in the Big 12 and teams jockeying for the Big 12 champion, TCU almost gets forgotten about. But they had a really nice finish to the year. Do you expect them to kind of carry that over into this? And what's two-parter? What do you think they're able to exploit the most against UNC?
Yeah, I think TCU is going to be just fine here, and I think they carry over that momentum. You mentioned they had a kind of a rough go at things at times. Their losses to SMU and Baylor make sense. Those were both pretty good teams. They also lost to UCF and Houston. Those don't. UCF ended up effectively firing Gus Malzahn. He left, but come on. And then Houston, I believe they'll utilize that TCU win to showcase it wasn't a fluke. They're going to be a pretty good Big 12 team this year, but the Horned Frogs slipped up to some schools you didn't expect last year, but they also beat Texas Tech. They beat Utah. They beat Kansas. Those teams were solid at times, at the very least. And for their season last year, you mentioned it, TJ. They were winning. That Utah win, Texas Tech. There was that Baylor loss kind of in the middle of it, but they ended up with 6 of the last 7 games being W's after a brutal start to their year. And now Josh Hoover takes his offense all over again. The rushing offense was 114th in America last year at 114 yards per game. That is not good. Scoring offense, though, 25th in the country overall, because the passing game was 8th in the nation. We keep saying, maybe, Josh Hoover could be elite. 8th in the country in passing offense last year, 21st in yards per attempt. He was almost incapable of being sacked last year. And if the TCU defense steps it up just a little bit, they're going to carry that momentum into this year. They were 23rd themselves against the pass. So that's a really good spot to hone in. When you are top 10 in the country throwing the football, top 25 in stopping the opposing team from throwing the football, here's what that spells, TJ. It says that I'm throwing effectively, meaning I'm scoring at a faster rate. You cannot throw. So the second that I get up by 14 against you and you can't pass, you have to run the ball, that clock is ticking and it works to an extreme disadvantage against your opponents. That's where TCU can carry that momentum into this game. Love a 2-part question here because I'll tell you, I'm not worried at all about what TCU's got this year. I think the Big 12 has enough parity that they won't finish with 10 wins, but they're comfortably in that 8 or 9 win range. And they were 28th overall offensively in opponent adjusted per play rankings, and they were 23rd defensively in the country. All this per Pick Six Previews, the best preseason magazine in all of college football. Very much like what I'm seeing out of TCU in their fall camp.
Yeah, it really feels like they could run up the score here against UNC. And not just UNC, really run up the score a lot this year. They scored a lot of points. They lost a lot of shootouts. I mean, I remember back, that SMU game had 4,000 points scored in it. Defensive touchdowns, everything else going on in that one. But, man, they never stopped firing. I mean, they absolutely brought the points. And I'm interested to see if Belichick has some wrinkles that he can pull out. It's a Monday night. You're making your debut. I'm sure he'll throw everything he can at this. I'm kind of with you. I don't know if it'll be enough. And I'm not enough of an ACC homer to really care. It doesn't bother me if they drop this. The content's really good either way when Belichick does anything. So give me a score on this one.
Yeah, I think TCU continues those high-scoring ways. The UNC defense is not my worry as much as their offense, but that's going to be a problem where UNC cannot establish the passing game, and I don't see a lot out of the running game that's elite. TCU, as long as their front 5 on offense does their job, will score into the 40s in this game. This is a 44-24 win for TCU on the road, and Monday, Monday, but especially Tuesday, the day after the game, we're all going to be talking about how Bill Belichick may not be able to get it done at UNC. And again, I still think they win probably 7, maybe 8 games this year in ACC play, but TCU is not no ACC schmuck. They're going to be a really strong proponent of the Big 12 this year.
Make sure if you watch this, you go find Drake on Locked On Big 12. Do not comment hate on my video, ACC or UNC fans. Go do that on Drake's.
Numbers, TJ. They're numbers.